A moment of truth. That's how President Yushchenko described Ukrainian politics in his televised address, moments before dissolving the parliament for the second time in less than 18 months.
As of October the 8th, 2008, I have received no proposals from any political force to form a majority coalition. And now, when the deputies have driven themselves into a deadlock, it is Ukrainian people who are to have their say. Under the Ukraine's constitution, I am terminating the powers of the country's parliament of the 6th convocation and calling for an early parliamentary election.
The decision hardly surprised anyone in Kiev. When Ukraine found itself in the same situation last year, experts up to the very last minute thought the Rada will live. This time, few doubted the dissolution would happen. It was only a matter of when. According to political commentators, this was something of Yushchenko's plan, primarily meant to oust his main rival for the upcoming presidential vote in 2010, Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko.
They are fighting for the same electorate, but Tymoshenko's rating is 25% and Yushchenko's is barely 5%. So he has to get rid of her, and the only way to do so is through another snap ballot. It's absolutely impossible that Tymoshenko would again gain a majority with any other party and be re-elected as a Prime Minister.
The dissolution of the Rada is a direct outcome of the confrontation between the President and the Prime Minister. After the orange majority in the Rada collapsed in September, the two began a mutual blame game. Sharp rhetoric echoed among talks of creating a new coalition. There was even a possibility of an unexpected alliance between Yulia Tymoshenko's party and the pro-Russian Party of Regions, the two being fierce political rivals. 24 hours before the president dissolved the Rada, the Prime Minister declared all her party's deputies were ready to rejoin the original coalition. With no reaction from the president's party, Tymoshenko lashed out at her former ally, something experts viewed as something of an act of last resort by the Iron Lady.
The first option first priority for Yulia Tymoshenko is to really try to avoid the early voting. Ukraine is the only one country which reacts with voice. Society's protests when it's not agree with the power.
It's clear that the dissolution of the Rada will seriously undermine Tymoshenko's position. Surprising as it may seem, but it was Yushchenko's ally, the Our Ukraine Party deputy Anatoly Gritsenko, who was the first to criticize the dissolution.
It's irresponsible to embark a country in an election against the backdrop of a deep and lasting crisis. The president should join with the government and the parliament in order to reduce the risks for the country.
The main criticism from politicians and commentators is the early ballot will be a costly event, a luxury the Ukrainian economy can hardly afford. For the president, it seems to be the only way to stay afloat. The country is experiencing what the media describes as election fatigue. If less than 50% of the electorate take part in the vote, the election will be void. So President Yushchenko will hold the reins of power until a compromise Rada comes into being. The president has not yet announced the date of the early ballot, but in accordance with the Ukrainian constitution, it must take place within 2 months after the decree was signed. And experts believe this will happen in the first week of December, sometime before New Year and Christmas. The question is what the voter turnout will then be. Alexei Rashevsky, RT, Kiev, Ukraine.